Welcome to Libby's Leadership Lab. I'm Libby Gill, and I'm here to help you level up your leadership skills so you can create the professional life you really want without sacrificing your personal life. I've been guiding women executives and entrepreneurs for more than 30 years. First, as a C-suite corporate exec, heading communications at 3 major Hollywood studios, and now as a business owner and leadership coach. So let's get started. It's time to invent your future. Hey everybody, welcome to the Leadership Lab. Now, I know this past year and the foreseeable future has been such a difficult time for everybody, but there's one of the hardest hit groups that I want to talk about today, and it's working mothers, working parents in general, but moms who have the responsibility for homeschooling, taking care of the house while they're working full time. And I've got a perfect example of that today herself. Randi Braun is joining us. She is an advocate for working women and an executive coach. So welcome, Randi. You just scooted in here yourself from all of those multiple roles, right?
I mean, Libby, as we were just saying before we hit record, it is truly one of those, it's a miracle we're making it through the day, working mom kind of days in our household over here.
And everybody from Melinda Gates on down has said, wow, has not this pandemic blown open the fact that women need childcare, they need help, they need the same wages as men, all of those things. We're just seeing them displayed on our Zoom every single day. But before we jump into that, and some strategies you have for working women that dearly need them, including anybody who knows and loves a working woman. This is valuable information for you to have. Tell us about you, because you've got a really interesting background and just made a huge transition.
Yes. And Libby, to your point, one thing I would add as well is anyone who manages a working mom.
Yes, exactly.
Anyone who reports to a working mom or dad, right? It's all the working moms and dads around us in our workplace. And my origin story as a working mom is really the origin story of my business, Something Major. I had my 2 kids, Libby, as you know, because I have little kids, in 2 years and 6 days, which is aggressive. And the origin story of my business is that at a time where most women's wages actually stagnate and plateau, I doubled my compensation in those 2 years.
That is great. And that's a story in itself that we need to get to. But give us a little bit more about you and how you got from that, big career that you had to taking a risk. You kind of gambled it all on a brand new career in the middle of COVID.
I did, right? And that definitely, taking the risk was planned. COVID was not. So
Right.
basically what happened was my story had kind of gotten around about, these big leaps that I had taken, and all these women, all these other working moms always wanted to have coffee with me. And I was just so much more interested in hearing their stories.
Yeah.
Than telling my own over and over again. And so that piqued my interest in coaching, which started in earnest as a part-time engagement on top of my job, my full-time job being the director of enterprise sales at DC's largest homegrown tech startup.
Whoa, that's a lot right there.
And parenting 2 kids under 3 at the time. And
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so all of this to say, it was just, there got to be a point, Libby, where it felt like I really needed to choose. Did I want to really lean into this business, the business of really empowering working women and working mothers? Or did I want it to be a little side hobby? And so to your point, about 100 days before COVID, today that we're recording is actually the 1-year anniversary of taking this business from part-time to full-time.
Congrats, yay.
I decided to quit my job, a well-cushioned corporate job that I thought that I was going to be in for a long time.
Right.
And roll the dice on starting my own company as a full-time endeavor. And my coach said to me, Libby, welcome to the first day of the rest of your life. And he was so right.
Yeah.
I didn't believe him. I was skeptical. But like so many things, and Michael, if you're listening to this, he was right.
Well, Randi, I did the same thing. I had a great entertainment career, high level, corner office, nice pay, all that stuff. And now for me, starting my business as an executive coach, 20 years last November. So I have never looked back. It was a great decision. I love what I'm doing. But tell me now how I've got 2 kids. I worked my way up the corporate ladder and in a leadership position with 2 kids who thankfully are young adults now. So I'm not going through the little ones crawling on your lap or having to figure out how to homeschool or any of those things. So many women are. But tell me about the challenges, what you're seeing with working moms today. What are they going through and how are they coping or not coping?
Yeah, it's just such a crush. My area of expertise is really working with moms who work in high demand, high performance, high volume environments. Libby, a lot of women who worked in the jobs that you worked at, right?
Yeah.
When you were in your entertainment career. And for them, they have spent their entire working motherhood existence architecting the perfect blue plan so that it just works. All the care arrangements, all the commuting arrangements, all the school choices, so that they can make it work. And to have all of that, the rug just pulled out from under them
Right.
with no notice. It has been a struggle for every single working mom I know.
Yeah.
And we can talk about the personal struggles, but we also need to talk about the workforce crisis. The Department of Labor back in September put out a report that estimates that nearly 1 million moms have left the workforce.
Right.
McKinsey estimates it at closer to 2 million. And I wrote an op-ed over the summer about this attrition crisis that was going to be coming. And Libby, to what we talked about at just the top of the hour, this affects our pay. We're seeing a huge loss of our talent. People who are stagnating or leaving the leadership pipeline. And, working moms actually make as little as 69 cents on the dollar as compared to working dads.
And when they come back in after this gap that many of them didn't expect, didn't plan for, and didn't want, they've got to restart. They've lost a year of professional growth, of salary growth, of promotions. They've got to really reboot and start again. And that's going to be hard too.
Absolutely. And they're tired, Libby.
Yeah.
Like we're all tired.
Yeah. Well, tell me about that. What do you tell the women that you're working with about just the burnout factor? Because I see that in people that just can't step away from Zoom or from their computers from morning to night. There's no separation. There's no 20-minute or half an hour commute time home anymore. There's nothing. You're just glued.
Yeah, the number one thing I'm seeing is women just running on fumes.
Yeah.
And they're getting to a point where they're running on empty. And this is what it looks like, is that their workplaces tell them that they can be flexible. On paper, their workplaces have the fancy, flashy benefits that you're reading stories about in the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
And then what's happening is, sure, there's flexibility, but between virtual school and projects and meetings, they're only getting a few hours during the day. Those are usually going to Zooms with colleagues. And then the actual doing of work is happening at 9 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. And Libby, we're recording this, we're almost a year into this.
Right. Everybody figured, well, I could do this for a month. We can power through for the summer. But now we know this could go on another year. I mean, it will change its form and some people will begin to go back to the office as we get vaccinated and those sorts of things. But we're kind of in this for the long haul.
Yeah, and we can't go back to vaccinations or not. We can't go back to the offices until child care centers reopen.
Right.
Public schools reopen. Private schools are already more open right now. And the biggest issue is that Libby, if it was anything else, it would just be science. For example, take a race car, a high performance, a Ferrari, a Lamborghini. If the gas tank is on empty, it doesn't matter how much you will it. Right. It is sitting on the side of the road until AAA roadside assistance comes and bails you out.
So what do you tell these women? What are some strategies that they can use? And what are you coaching women to do to deal with the burnout, the difficulty of this situation, just the reality of the existence that we're in today?
Yeah, so there's a few things. There's mindset, and then there's tactics.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to mindset, one of the things that I ask them to think about is, what can you say no to so that you can say yes to something more important?
Yeah. Now that takes me right to the name of your business, because you named it Something Major, yes, which I love. And I love getting your Something Major newsletters. And you're on the precipice of something major, as your website says. So tell me, what was your inspiration? And I have to guess it's something about the leap you made yourself, but tell me about that name.
And it's so funny that you use the word inspiration because it truly was the most organic moment of inspiration.
Mhm.
So, my business really started in earnest with just my story getting around town and piquing my curiosity about coaching and starting to get some training and some early clients. And I'm tossing and turning in bed one night because Parents Magazine has called me.
Yeah.
I haven't hung a shingle up on my business officially. I have no website. And someone from Parents Magazine calls me and wants to interview me for an article. And I'm in shock,
Right.
right?
That's my who me moment.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, today, doing press is more of a day-to-day part of my job. But at the time I was like, Parents Magazine, who me? And I'm tossing and turning in bed one night, Libby. And it's the night before the interview. And I know I have to get a website together. And my husband just sits up really grumpy because it's almost midnight and I've kept him up. He goes, tell me what's wrong so we can just go to bed. And I said, I think I'm on the precipice of something major and I just want to get there.
Okay, well, there you go. Out of your mouth, there came the title. I know those days. I had a very similar story in entertainment. I knew I was through. I just done it, and it just didn't feed me any longer. What I loved was building teams and helping people become leaders, all the fun stuff of coaching, both corporate people and entrepreneurial. And I thought, well, maybe there's a job out there where I can do that. And I kind of looked around for about a second and thought, no, there's no job. And so I started with helping people figure out how to get into entertainment, or in many cases, more often, how to get out and start something major on their own. And it was the same thing. It just kind of, you're doing what? People either thought I was nuts or just absolutely courageous. And I'm sure you had a few of those raised eyeballs of, you're giving up what?
Well, what's so funny, Libby? Someone asked me, how did you learn to be a risk taker?
Yeah.
And I was like, I am not a risk taker. I'm a recovering risk avoider.
Okay. In my book, You Unstuck, I call that riskophobia. Those people who have learned to avoid risks and have plenty of excuses, many of which are true. Yes, you're time constrained, you're budget constrained, you've got a family that's counting on your income, all that, and yet you do it anyway. And I get that. So, Randi, tell me if you've got an experiment. This is the Leadership Lab. This is where we love to talk about experiments and action. And as you said, you're a reformed risk avoider. So somewhere in there, you figured out how to take a risk. And I'd love to know that. And then I would love it if you would share a leadership and experiment for others that we can really just kind of road test at home. Maybe it's for the risk takers who say, yay, I'm ready, I'm going to jump in, or for the people who are a little bit more risk averse, but are willing to put a toe in the water. So tell me about your risk taking first.
Yeah. About my risk
Yeah.
taking.
Where did that come from when you finally said, I'm doing it?
For me, and it's something that I encourage my clients all the time to do, is to really assess, are you making a decision from a place of minimizing stress and minimizing risk?
Yeah.
Or from a place of maximizing joy and fulfillment?
Yeah, I get that. If you just I always think about in terms of where your energy draws you. Does this job interview with this new employer get you all excited and on fire? Well, that could be a good thing. If you leave there thinking, well, yeah, maybe it sounds like a good move, not so much. So it's really that kind of, is it joyful and is it fulfilling? That's, yeah.
And also, where is the fear factor? Because for me, like so many women, and Libby, I've coached women who are C-level executives in Fortune 200 companies. I've coached women who are emergent leaders stepping into their first leadership role. And this is universal, is that we all have fear. Yeah. And for so long, like so many of the clients I have, Libby, like so many of the people who listen to the Leadership Lab, I made so many decisions in my career based on fear.
We all do, I think, coming up, because we don't know any better. It's all unknown. I remember when I first got my VP stripes on my first big corporate job, and now I was in the inner sanctum of the I just call that the big scary meeting, whatever anybody's version of that is. And I looked around the room. I mean, I knew everybody in there. I just wasn't part of the inner circle yet. And I thought, these guys are no smarter than me. They're no more capable. I could do all this stuff. And it was like, the fear went from there to like, whoo, okay, I'm good. And it's really that moment of stepping, and people love to say stepping into your power. And that's really sort of what it is. I can do this.
Yeah, and even just getting curious about what you can do, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Thinking
exactly.
about what you could do instead of what you should do. For so many women, should is this place where they hang out with other people's expectations or their perception of other people's
Yeah.
expectations. Could
Did
is
it
that place of innovation. Yeah.
Did it rock the boat a little bit? I know a lot of women who have fear of, particularly when they go out on their own as entrepreneurs, as we both did. There's a little boat rocking moment, either with the family or your close circle of friends. And I find often it's legitimate. It's because they're concerned for you, but they're sort of echoing their own fears. But it takes a minute to sort of work through that and think, I get their concerns, but I'm doing it anyway. Did you have any of those concerns, giving up a big paycheck and saying, I'm going to invest in myself here?
It's so funny. Most of that came from me. I was, first of all, my husband has been
That's great.
the biggest champion of this business. He believed in something major before I believed in something major.
Okay.
And don't he'll remind you of that any chance that he gets.
Right. I told you. I knew this would work. Right.
Yeah, but I needed to believe in me, right? I was shocked that, when I shared this with my parents, when I shared this with my grandfather, the child of immigrants who grew up in a tenement, in that real like immigrant experience, who really made a life for himself, putting himself through college and building his own successful career. And I told him, I was like, hey,
here's what I'm doing. What did he say?
I think I'm going to roll the dice. He just without a moment's hesitation said, I'm so proud of you. And it was not unexpected because he always supports me, but it just blew my mind.
Yeah, just to hear that.
Yeah, just support from the family. It was the fear factor was mine.
It's so interesting. I think I have a friend coach who in this time, she's got a severely disabled daughter. And I think, boy, talk about a working mom with kids at home and one's got serious special needs. That's like, to me, is this, she would never call that the perfect storm because she loves raising this child. But it's, it has its complications. No daycare, no childcare, no help. Doctor's appointments difficult. Everything was compounded. And yet she feels like, this is a time we're all just going to work through and we're going to all do it together. But she always says, when one person believes in you, that's when it turns. When you see that, and maybe it's multiple, you're lucky as I am and you are, that we've got multiple people that believe in us. But when one person says, oh yeah, I can absolutely see this for you, that can really turn that switch and take you from the precipice to fully leaping the chasm.
Yeah, and there were a few key people, a few of my mentors, a few other people in my life who honestly sat me down and practically would be interventioned me.
For you to do it, you mean?
Yes. What are you doing? But the truth is, like you, I didn't leave my former career because I disliked it.
Yeah.
And that's what made it hard. When you really I was working in business development. I love relationships. In a lot of ways, business development and coaching, I think it's what's made the transition so seamless for me. It's the business of connecting with people and helping them think about how to solve their problems and get somewhere bigger than they are today.
And that's what I think coaches do, is you see something bigger, you see something major. That they don't always see for themselves. And just that belief in, sending somebody out to speak up at that meeting. You've never really voiced an opinion or dissented or shown your true colors. You got to get out there and do that. And then they do it and come back. That's the best coaching moment, when they come back and say, oh my gosh, here's what happened, or it worked, or I got it, or whatever that is, when they've hit that next level. And that's super exciting. And to me, that's joyful. That's fun.
Someone asked me recently, how would you, evaluate the success of your company in the first year? And I said to them, it's so simple. It doesn't matter anything about me. It's my client's success is my success.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the working mom who didn't quit her job this year, who had just scored that coveted promotion to the new team that she wanted. It's the established executive who I was working with, who found a way to get a huge major promotion at a global organization. You know, that's my success, and that's how I know that I'm doing the right thing.
Right.
Because my story is not unique, but it's also not common enough. And I'm not going to stop until we have more working moms in the workplace, especially working moms who, like you said, their kids have special needs, single moms, moms who need just more support.
Yeah.
We have to keep going until we create a workplace where moms feel equipped, enabled, and empowered to succeed.
Right. And then they can, oh, you know, the pipeline, just like I do, where we come in men and women about the same level, and then it drops off for women at every step of the corporate ladder. And we need those women up there showing the women below, hey, it can be done. You can do this. I've got kids. You've got kids. We'll figure this out. And then those that can influence institutions with real benefits, real flex time, not today's flex time. That's a whole
Mhm.
different ballgame, and can begin to, oh boy, when they can influence their institution and legislation, then we've got some real headway going, and women can really begin to thrive. I think about the women that are the hourly wage earners, the people that are out on the front lines because they can't stay home. They're driving a bus, or they're working in the food supply chain, and that's really hard for those women. And I hope we get to a place in this country where we really begin to help those people.
And Libby, as you know, I'm here in Washington, D.C. This
Yep.
is a place, my adopted city that I've called home for about a decade. And this is a conversation that we need to have just a few miles away inside of the Capitol from where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah.
It's, of course, there is the paid leave issue, of course, for, more quote unquote professional working moms. And then think about the women who make your burrito at Chipotle.
Absolutely.
They have no maternity leave. They're expected to give birth and be back to work.
Right.
And we don't have a working mom crisis in America. We have so many working mom crises
Right.
in America. And instead of being afraid of that, we need to have more open and honest dialogues like this one, and talk about what we need to do so that, Libby, I have a young daughter. She's 4. She's going to be in kindergarten next year. My greatest longing is that when she becomes a professional, she looks back on this conversation and all of the ones we're having right now, and she's like, what was wrong with you people?
Yeah, right. What did you live in a different century?
Right?
Or, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I do a lot of work as you do in women's leadership and speaking at summits. And I always think, it's so great that we have these, but I can't wait for the day when we don't need them. Just to have them because we want them, but not because they're needed. I think I can't wait for that day. I don't know if it's going to be in my lifetime, but I hope it's going to be at some point where women really, we hit that level of parity. And look, you're in such a unique position with your DC and political background and what you're doing to influence women right now. I'm so glad you took the leap, and you went off that precipice and just kind of decided, yeah, I'm taking the leap, and I'm sure there's a net down there somewhere, but you did it. So Randi, now I want to ask you, what can you ask other women to do? What's a call to action so that you can challenge all of our listeners, not just to listen? I love that you're listening out there, but to do something major. What would
Yeah.
that be?
2020 for so many women was a year where they feel like they just survived.
Yeah.
And my greatest longing is that we find a way to thrive in 2021 and beyond. And it can be really, really, actually very complicated to set good intentional goals for ourselves when we're so busy. And I want to encourage all of the women who are listening to sit down and to write out their goals, but divide them up into 4 categories. I want you to write your personal goals, your professional goals, your financial goals, and your family and relationships goals. It is so much easier to build an integrated plan when we first segment out what it is that we want to accomplish. Because when we don't take the time, Libby, to do that exercise, we actually talk ourselves out of the biggest things we want to do. Or we negotiate against ourselves,
right,
and tell ourselves it's not possible.
Yeah.
And so I really want to encourage the women who are listening is to think about how you can goal set differently, and then take one small step towards each one of those goals.
You are speaking my language, Randi. I love it. And by the way, I do everything that all of my experts suggest. It kind of keeps my head spinning, But I take all of this very seriously, and I'm always game. There's always something new and different to try. And I love that. I like how you've divided those. And there's something I'm sure you've noticed, Randy. It's magical when you commit it to paper, when you get it out of your head and on a piece of paper, and then you really take one, and it's the little action. You take that one daily action because it's right there on your plan. Nobody imposed that on you. You made that up for yourself. So why would you not act upon it? And then if you feel yourself receding or chickening out a little bit, you look at that plan and say, did I do that or did I not do that? So we're going to put that in the show notes so that everybody knows here is your challenge of the day. And Randy, you are a wealth of wisdom and expertise, and I wish you well on all your major, all the things you have going on in your business. And tell us where we can find you and people can learn more about your work.
Yeah, the best place to find me is on my website, which is somethingmajorcoaching.com. And on there, there's all sorts of things that you can do. You can find me on social from there. You can check out my free Insight Center. You can join one of my free workshops, which are always ongoing, or you can even subscribe to my newsletter. So yeah, I hope to keep in touch with everybody. And Libby, I want to thank you so much. This is such a personal pleasure. Libby, you were such a champion and a mentor to me when I was thinking about taking this leap. And so we can't close Leadership Lab without just sharing my profound gratitude. And thank you for all your leadership in this space.
Thank you, and welcome to the club. It's a really exciting place to be, and I'm so glad you're out there helping so many women that dearly need that support and knowledge and expertise from somebody who's done it. So thank you, Randi Braun. We'll put all of that in the show notes so you can learn more about something major. And that's a wrap, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday.